All right, welcome back. It's a few minutes past 7, just close to half an hour to 7, and we're ready to have that all-important discussion. Sophia, matters to do education. All of us have to pass through there. All of us, have opinions and thoughts about it. And yes, we all agree that we must change it. We must panel beat it.
True. You know, as you say, everyone must pass through there. One of our colleagues, Zubeda, was telling me her child, who's in nursery school, the other day had an exam.
Yes, my son too had an exam.
Really?
Yes.
What grade is he?
Well, he's 3.
Baby class?
Yes.
What exams do they do?
Drawing oranges and elephants,
I found that very interesting, but hey, Kenya at 50 conversation. Today we focus on education, and joining us in studio, Dr. Muchiri Mwangi, who's Dean, School of Graduate Studies and Research at KCA University. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. So it's a big day today. The president again will address the nation and to just in his governments where they stand, in his opinion, and where the government stands, the state of the nation, how it looks. And education is huge. Yeah. If you were giving that address, how would you say the state of education is so far?
Well, it's a tough question. But I think
let's look at it from the past 1 year and some of the challenges perhaps we have had in the past. Have we seen any changes?
I think Kenyan education is at crossroads. And the big problem that we notice with the Kenyan education is that it's like we are complaining all over about it, and it's like everybody, including the government, is complaining about it. Nobody is doing something about it. So, and therefore, then you find that we get into some kind of a confusion in the sector. I think if we look back, we are not making progress. For example, we have had so many commissions and all those committees focusing on education. But then, how much of that have we tried to implement, or have we implemented? You discover that not much. So we have not made as much progress as we would want to, because every one of us you speak to, we will tell you what we would expect in our education sector.
Right.
But it is not happening. Yeah.
Okay. James?
Right, interesting, because we've always had discussion. I mean, and I think just a few weeks ago we had this discussion. And the question of where do we start to even change this? Because a nation must train its people to aspire to be something. We must train our people for something. What is our education training Kenyans to be?
I think it's training us to be people who recall stuff and replicate it on paper, and not beyond that. And education, and when I've read a lot of our reports, our Vision 2030, I realize we have the ideas and we have got the models of what we want our education to look like. And you see, like if you look at the Vision 2030, education is placed right at the pedestal of its achievement. But you realize that come onto the ground where the rubber meets the tarmac, there is little that is being done yet to achieve that. So we will talk about education helping us to solve problems. We'll talk about education helping us to be socially responsible. We'll talk about education being a source or helping us develop our human resource needs. We will talk about education in terms of social justice and human rights, about reduction of disparities. But when you go to our schools, when you go to our universities, when you go to our colleges, is that what is happening? I think that is where we have a problem. We need to go there and know what is happening. And we need to have a proper focus. Let me take you back a little bit. When the 844 system started, the idea was very noble, and it was vocationalization of education. That is, let's equip our students when they're leaving, for example, Form 4, with some skills. Let's equip them also with knowledge, those who will want to go for higher education. But then you realize that though the idea was noble, its implementation fell short. For expediency purposes, mostly politics. And for that reason, we were not able actually to galvanize support from the population and from most people. So then it was perceived negatively. And vocational training now is perceived as for those who fail.
Okay. And then there's free primary education, which was received well at the beginning. It was seen as this solution to the big problem of, illiteracy and all. So across the board, it was welcomed. But in terms of whether enough measures were put in place to ensure that it's a wholesome solution to the problem has come into question, in as far as you've had the big numbers of students in classes, the number of teachers very small, infrastructure of where these people actually come for this free education not happening. How would you rate the fact that we have free primary education and how it has been so far?
Well, 5 out of 10, I would say.
1 out of 10?
5 out of 10. Again, we go back. And the same problem we encountered in 2003 when we had the pronouncements of FPE and the president took this very noble measure. The problem is that we did not follow up that with resources. We did not follow it up with teachers. As you mentioned, the same thing happened when we were implementing the 844 system with the issues of vocational training. So we didn't have teachers to train those industrial education. We didn't have teachers to train home science in schools. And we just said, let's implement it. But then who is taking the responsibility of inculcating these skills? Now, the same thing was repeated itself in 2003. The teachers made a lot of noise because suddenly you've got a class of 100 students,
yes.
and these are small children. How do you teach small children of 100 children, 100 young kids, train them in this skill, in some skills, and they need this personal attention? Okay, so that is where we are having a problem.
How do you see, what is the best way to go about that going forward? Since the program is still there, but going forward, what do you think is key that needs to be done or injected into the system?
I think one, education has to be treated with more respect. Teaching, for example, should not be the profession of last resort, that because you could not get something else to do, you get to teaching. Teaching should be a noble profession, jealously guarded. And that means, therefore, there has to be substantial investment by the government in the profession. I'm looking to that day when our young children in primary school are being taught by people with PhDs, with masters, people who have the knowledge. And as they do that, they are researching on these people because that's what some other places they will do. I'm looking to the place where when you get your master's degree, the Teachers Service Commission does not tell you, we don't need that extra qualification for you. We are satisfied with the diploma of education or with the bachelor's of education. We need people who have been trained also in research to be able to interact with these people. And then we need also to make sure that our people who are leading the schools, the principals, the board of governors, the school committees, are well trained in leadership. And that is something that we presume that it should happen, because most of the times you find a teacher is promoted to be a principal on the basis that they have been turning out good results, which is okay. But then what about the leadership skills of this person? I think leadership, we should look at that leadership skill. If a teacher is good in delivering, in teaching and instruction, let them be compensated. They don't need just necessarily to lead the school to be recognized. But it should be seen that the same teacher teaching in class and the leader leading the school are doing some complementary work. And so the teacher, for example, can earn some substantive pay when in class, as well as a principal. So when you're being elected to a position or selected to a position of leading the school, that is happening because of the leadership skills that you possess.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you find, and there's a big difference, for example, if you look at primary schools and secondary schools in terms of leadership. And you find that most of the secondary school principals, quite a number of them, have received this training in leadership. And so if you go there, you'll find quite a number of them are very good leaders. And you can see that even in terms of what they deliver. When you go to the primary schools, you find most of those principals have not been trained on leadership. And they are meeting situations where they need to display leadership. They need situations where they need to guide the teachers and to provide the direction at that lower level. Yeah.
Okay, before I bring James in on this, the question of the laptops. For you, in hindsight, the farther the country has come in its education system as a country in terms of just the entire spectrum, was it a right choice at that particular time? Because it was a big promise for the government. Do you feel it was too hasty to promise that and look at how far we've come and the kind of challenges they're facing? Was it even where the education system has come and the challenges we have in terms of classrooms, electricity, and all other issues that perhaps need to be addressed, was laptop an issue that should have been priority? Or should have the government been promising on something different in as far as education is concerned?
Well, the issue of laptop is a noble idea. I think so. It's good, for example, and I guess that I would maybe identify with what the president and his people, they were thinking about when they were talking about the laptops. Of course, the main agenda was politics at that time. The issue of exposing young children to technology at this age is very important at very early age. However, when you look back now, you also wonder now, should that be what we should start with? And my idea is that I would say no. I think we need to look at some of the fundamentals that are required. There are children who are taking classes under trees. Now you give that child a laptop and it rains, and they're under a tree, and where is that laptop going to be? So the idea is good, but I think again the implementation is wanting. Yeah, I mean an age-old problem with our system.
The systems,
yeah.
Yeah, and just now to go back to the teachers' situation, we don't have really a lot of programs that will encourage teachers to say, our career is progressing, we are being trained, there's opportunities to go to college and improve. That has by and far lacked, in terms of government doing it.
I think, yeah, and that is a big problem because the government does not want to help teachers advance. Teachers are saying, we want to go to school. I'm looking to that day when a teacher in a secondary school is also doing research in the same institution they're doing. Now, look, I'm teaching at the university, and then I have to go do some research in some schools where mostly I may not be very well conversant with what happens, but the teacher is there. Now, if we have these teachers and their skills are enhanced, and they are above teachers, they also know how to do, they're also researchers, they also do critical thinking, I think then we will be moving forward. Two, I think the issues that we need to look at in terms of the teacher is even facilitating them to advance. Now, I was once a teacher. When I decided I need to go for my further studies, I was teaching math. And when I decided I want to go for further studies, I approached the Teacher Service Commission. And guess what? The TSC was not interested. So I looked for my own means. I paid for my fee. And after that, I had no business with TSC. I went away. And I think if the government was supporting teachers, they will feel obliged also to remain and also to be able to push the government agenda within the ministry, within the teaching profession, because they feel they have a stake. But I'm here, I'm teaching, but when I need to develop myself, the government is not interested in that. And that is my employer. Even if you're working in the private sector or wherever else, if you don't see that interest in your employer, in your personal development, you also feel disconnected. So I think it is important for the government actually to come up with programs for training teachers and sponsoring them. And more, let's look at the tertiary education, where there is a big problem. If you look at our statistics, how many students are going to make it to the universities this year? and how many are going to are not going to make it? Of the lot that got their results last month, I think it was this month.
This month, yes.
Yeah. So if you look at that, most of them then would be going to the tertiary institutions. But if you go there, what are you going to learn? Okay, there's teaching. But then if you look at the polytechnics, of course, the good ones have been converted to universities and constituent colleges. That one now takes away the resource that is needed and that is at a higher demand and has got more people. And the other thing is, who is teaching the technical education, industrial education? I don't know. I know of only one college, KTTC, Kenya Teachers Technical College, which trains teachers on the technical skill, on technical subjects.
Right.
But then when you come to who is teaching, for example, when I was in school, there was something we used to call woodwork. Who was teaching the teacher who teaches woodwork? Where do they teach? What kind of facilities are they provided with when they are teaching that? And that boils down even to the teacher. That teacher is the one who will go to teach the village polytechnic, will teach these people how to do these skills, will teach the technician. Now, unless there is somebody and we invest resources to train these trainers, then we'll still have the same problem.
Yeah. And you've alluded to the issue of absorption because, from secondary school to whether it's university, tertiary institutions, where do those numbers go? We also see very many of them coming from primary schools, secondary schools, those being absorbed, very few in number. How can that also be addressed in terms of across the board, just ensuring that consistently who we get out from here at this particular point, they're also being catered to and we don't have some getting lost somewhere?
Good question. And in education, we've got to remember that we learn at different rates. I mean, we absorb education, content at different rates. So today, I may be 10 years, not very good in math, but when I get 15 years, I might be very good because of developmental issues. Developmental psychologists will tell you something more about that. But then, what you realize is that at the point of testing, if you fail, you are condemned. And that is where we have a problem. I think our system should be such that it has got tracks. One is a track that takes care of those who want to advance in education in terms of academy. A track for those who want to gain skills. I'll give you an example of Singapore. In Singapore, the moment you finish your secondary school education, then you have the opportunity of going to the junior school. You have the opportunity of joining a Institute of Technical Education. And all these are training you. Like the junior college trains you and imparts on you skills to be able to join higher ed and, to, for example, enhancing your math skills, arts, drama, music. It will teach you quite a number of things. And technical education trains you in terms of the skills, workforce skills, because at that point you might just you might just be trained to join the workforce, for example, to be a plumber. And if you think about where you live in, how many times do you complain about water leaking within the system? And that's a problem of our education. And that's why we need to focus on. We need to make sure that we track people. And we don't need to lay so much emphasis on achievement in examination results and condemning those who don't achieve those results, because we are endowed with different talents. And not all of us are going to be academicians to be very brilliant in math, but we can also be very good in drama. We can be very good in other things. So we need to tap all those resources by making sure that our education is not losing any of those people within the system. Right now, we are just throwing off everybody off board. If you don't reach C+, get out of the way.
Done.
If you don't get a certain score, get out of the way. And where you go, we don't know. And what is the consequence? The consequence is what we are complaining about today, which maybe the president will be talking about, security. Because these people, you are throwing them away, you are telling them they are
still
useless.
Need to have
they
food.
Have got to prove that they are not useless. Okay? So when they get you on the road and they offer that to your vehicle with you and you're driving a good vehicle, they'll tell you, I need this because you should not be driving and I'm not, and I need food in the house.
Okay.
But suppose our system was able to catch all this and to be able to track these people and make sure that we tap all this talent, then we would be having, the industry would not be complaining of lack of workforce skills, that we are training irrelevant, we're having irrelevant education, the skills gap between what is needed and what we are training, because our education is in tandem with what the market needs.
Right.
And the other thing is then, on the side of the academy, we've got these people who want to move on with their academics, become professors and all that. Let's give them the opportunity. Let them move on. But let us not lose this big group that we are losing in our education system.
All right.
I have something from online here. Cycling Banker asks, says the true institution heads needs to be leaders and not just performers. I think, as you had mentioned there, and I think that's the question, that are we focusing now to just make institution heads to be leaders for the fact that, the fact that they performed elsewhere so you can be a leader, as opposed to, making them not just, be, performers and be leaders as well?
You see, the main problem is our definition of what performance is. If our performance is whether your school was number 1 or number 100, then we've missed the mark of performance. I would want to look at a situation where when we talk about performance, we can look 10 years down the line and we are saying, out of these 500 graduates from this school, we have got so many entrepreneurs, we have got so many who have achieved these awards, we have got so many who have created jobs. That is the performance that I would be looking for. But looking at an event, which exam is an event, and judging a person's ability but through that single event, I think that is being unfair to the person. Okay. So, and I think I want to mention this, that what we need to talk about in Kenya is what we call total quality management in education. Total quality management is about providing what is required as judged by the customer. And who is our customer in Kenyan education? The employer, the entrepreneur, the students themselves, the society itself. Those are the customers. And what are they saying they want?
Okay.
That is what we need to focus on. And then TQM focuses on the teaching system rather than the examination results. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about our curriculum and the way we deliver it to the students. Wholesome, from kindergarten to the university. Okay? We don't, I think, like even in our universities, you find our students complaining. I'm a university lecturer, but you find our students complaining about the quality they want because they know what they want, and they will tell you they will tell you that this person delivers, this person does not.
Okay. Also very important, in a situation where if you were to be sitting down with the president ahead of his speech today to the nation, and you come to the section, the paragraph that he's going to talk about education, what would your advice be to him in as far as what perhaps is most pressing, most important to be able to talk about? Education is vast, and you're talking about the future of millions of Kenyans. This keep talking about them being the next leaders. I think they're also today's leaders, but it's an important entity in as far as the population of Kenya is concerned. So what would your advice be? This is what perhaps Mr. President priority needs to be right now.
First, stop commercialization of education. Education now is being seen as a commercial, what do you call it? And it's like an economic commodity. We trade with it, and we are trading with people's life. So I would like to see the president, first of all, take steps to make sure that we stop this commercialization of education, right from primary school to the university. 2, I would like to see a situation where the president addresses the issue of shortage, especially tertiary education. We need to have to focus, a clear focus on that area. It is so prime for us. Let's have I know there is, for example, the strategic plan that was done in 2008 up to 2012. I've not seen a revision of that yet. But we need to focus on that. One, what the resources that we are putting there. Two, who is teaching there? I mean, the trainers who are training this, and the kind of education that is taking there. Like, we need to invest more in that particular sector. So I would like to see the president address that. Okay? There are issues, of course, which teachers will complain every day. I don't know where, I would like to see where we have got more teachers also being employed to be able to support the issue of delivery in terms of learning in schools, especially at the lower levels. We need teachers, we need more teachers.
Okay. Yeah. And we appreciate you for being with us in studio today. We definitely hope perhaps somebody is watching and they can make those last minute changes to the speed. But we appreciate clearly an important sector. A lot needs to happen going forward. And as far as the education is concerned, Dr. Muchiri Mwangi, Dean, School of Graduate Studies and Research, KCA University, asante sana for being with us this morning.